The Blue Box Upstairs. Chapter 1. On the night her daughter announced the engagement, Vivian stepped outside to escape the applause. The garden smelled of wet earth and cigarette smoke. Someone was already standing near the stone wall in the dark, shoulders bent against the cold. And before he turned toward her, she knew exactly who it was. Not because she had expected him, because part of her had been waiting for him since 1987. And the body, unlike the mind, keeps immaculate records. For a moment neither of them moved. Music drifted faintly from the house behind them. Laughter, glasses touching, her daughter's bright voice rising above the others like something newly released into the world. The man near the wall looked older than memory had prepared her for. Not weaker. Age had settled into him with a certain severity. His hair had gone almost completely silver at the temples. His posture remained careful and straight, though she noticed immediately the stiffness in the way he held one shoulder. A dark wool coat, bare hands despite the cold. Gabriel Mercer had once possessed the kind of beauty that made people speak more softly around him. Now he possessed something worse. Presence. "You still disappear from parties," he said. His voice entered her like weather. Vivian folded her arms tightly across herself. "You still arrive uninvited." That's fair. She should have gone back inside immediately. That was the sensible thing. Her husband was in the dining room opening champagne. Her daughter was probably looking for her already. 40 years of adulthood had supplied Vivian with an entire architecture of appropriate behavior. And still she remained where she was. Rainwater trembled along the hedge beside them. "How long has it been?" he asked. "You know exactly how long." "Yes," he said quietly. "I do." She studied him carefully now. There were lines beside his mouth she did not recognize. Grief lines. Exhaustion. Time had sharpened him instead of softening him. But the eyes were unchanged. Gray, attentive, dangerous in their patience. Vivian looked away first. "That was cruel," he said. "What was?" "Looking at me like that." A short laugh escaped her before she could stop it. "You always did mistake observation for cruelty." "No," he said. "Only yours." Silence settled between them again, though not comfortably. The years between them did not feel absent. They felt crowded. From inside the house came another burst of applause. Their daughter. Not theirs, Vivian reminded herself instantly. Eleanor belonged to another life entirely. A better one in many ways. Cleaner. Earned honestly. Gabriel followed the direction of her gaze toward the lit windows. "She looks happy." "She is." "And the young man?" "David." Vivian nodded once. "He's kind." That sounded almost reluctant. "She's 32. Reluctance is a mother's obligation." "Is that what you call it now?" She turned back toward him sharply. "Why are you here, Gabriel?" The question landed harder than she intended. He lowered his eyes briefly, studying the damp grass beneath his shoes. "I was invited." "By whom?" "Your daughter." Vivian stared at him. "That's impossible." It surprised me too. "No," she said. "Eleanor doesn't even know who you are." A faint expression moved across his face then. Not quite sadness. Something closer to acceptance. "She knows enough." The cold suddenly seemed sharper. Inside the house someone opened the back door briefly, releasing warmth and music into the dark before shutting it again. Vivian spoke carefully now. "What does that mean?" Gabriel hesitated. It was the hesitation that frightened her. Not because he was preparing to lie, because he was deciding how much truth the evening could survive. "She came to see me 3 months ago," he said. Vivian felt the ground shift slightly beneath her composure. "What?" "She found me in Boston." "She did not." "She did." "Why?" Gabriel exhaled slowly through his nose. "You'd have to ask her." "No. I'm asking you." For the first time since she stepped outside, he looked genuinely uncertain. "She had questions," he said finally. "What kind of questions?" "The kind adult children ask when they realize their parents existed before becoming parents." Vivian's heartbeat had become unpleasantly visible to her. "That's not enough." "No," he agreed softly. It isn't. She stared at him, trying to understand the shape of the thing unfolding around her. Eleanor had never mentioned Gabriel's name. Not once. Vivian had spent decades ensuring precisely that. Not out of shame. That was the lie she had told herself for years. It had been fear. Certain loves, once spoken aloud, acquire a second life. Vivian had understood that very young. Gabriel reached into his coat pocket, then stopped himself almost immediately, as though remembering some habit he no longer permitted. "You quit smoking," she said automatically. "5 years ago. That seems unlikely. I nearly died." The words entered the air plainly. Vivian blinked once. He gave a small shrug. Turns out the doctors become persuasive when they start using words like lesion. Something tightened painfully in her chest. "When?" "Winter before last." "And you didn't tell me." Gabriel smiled at that. Not warmly. "We haven't spoken since Reagan was president." "That is not an answer." "No," he said. "It's the answer." The music inside shifted to something slower now. Vivian recognized the song vaguely from Eleanor's childhood. She suddenly pictured her husband, Thomas, carrying empty champagne glasses toward the kitchen with his careful domestic competence. He would be looking for her by now without making it obvious to the guests. Thomas never made scenes. That had once felt like safety. Now, standing in the dark with Gabriel Mercer after 39 years, she experienced it suddenly as distance. "You should go back inside," Gabriel said gently. The gentleness nearly undid her. "You don't get to decide that." "No," he said, "but I do know what people look like right before they make mistakes." "And what do I look like?" He held her gaze a second too long. "Lonely." The word struck with humiliating precision. Vivian looked away immediately toward the wet garden. Somewhere beyond the hedges, traffic moved faintly through the city. Ordinary lives continuing untouched. "You always confuse being lonely with being unhappy," she said. "And you always believed there was a meaningful difference." She wrapped her coat tighter around herself. "You disappeared," she said quietly. At last. The real sentence. Gabriel absorbed it without defense. "Yes. You vanished. Yes. You married someone else." His face changed almost imperceptibly then. Not guilt. Memory. She was already pregnant. Vivian laughed once under her breath. God. What a banal tragedy. It wasn't banal to her. "No," Vivian said. "Just to me." Rain began again lightly, thin silver lines crossing through the garden lamps. Gabriel stepped beneath the edge of the stone archway near the wall, but she remained where she was, letting the rain touch her face. "You think I don't know what I did?" he asked. "I think you survived it more comfortably than I did." "That would have surprised my wife." The sentence hung there. Vivian turned slowly back toward him. "Your wife died." "Yes." "When?" 8 months ago." She closed her eyes briefly. Now the invitation made more sense. Eleanor with her impossible compassion. Eleanor who collected wounded people the way other women collected books. "I'm sorry," Vivian said, and she meant it. Gabriel nodded once in acknowledgement, but the expression on his face suggested that condolences had become a language he no longer trusted. "She suffered for a long time," he said. "Toward the end, all she wanted was honesty from everyone around her. It became exhausting." Vivian looked at him carefully. "You mean from you?" "Yes." The rain strengthened slightly now, ticking softly against the leaves. He smiled without humor. "Dying people become very impatient with performance." "And were you performing? For 40 years?" "Constantly." Something in her chest answered that before her mind could. From inside the house came Eleanor's voice again. "Mom!" Vivian froze instantly. The back door opened. Warm yellow light spilled across the terrace stones. Eleanor stepped outside holding 2 champagne glasses, stopping short when she saw Gabriel beside the wall. For one strange, suspended second, all 3 of them remained perfectly still. Eleanor recovered first. "There you both are." Her smile arrived too quickly. Vivian knew that smile. She had worn versions of it herself for decades. Sweetheart, Vivian said carefully. Why didn't you tell me Mr. Mercer was coming tonight? Eleanor crossed the garden slowly toward them. 32 years old, dark-haired, intelligent eyes, Thomas's patience and Vivian's dangerous instinct for silence. I was going to, she said. But you didn't. No, Gabriel said quietly. I can leave. No, Eleanor answered immediately. Too quickly again. Vivian noticed it. Gabriel noticed it. Perhaps Eleanor noticed it herself. The rain continued around them. Eleanor handed one of the champagne glasses to her mother, though Vivian realized after taking it that her daughter's hand was trembling slightly. What is this? Vivian asked softly. Eleanor looked between them. Something vulnerable crossed her face then. Not fear exactly. More like the exhaustion of someone holding a difficult truth alone for too long. She stopped. Gabriel looked down at the whetstones. Eleanor, Vivian said. Their daughter drew a slow breath. I met him because I found the letters. Everything inside Vivian went silent. Even the rain. What letters? She asked, though she already knew. Eleanor's eyes filled immediately with regret. In the blue box upstairs, she said quietly. In the attic. Vivian felt suddenly cold all the way through her body. The blue box. She had forgotten about the blue box. No, that was another lie. She had remembered it constantly for 39 years. She had simply chosen never to touch it again. How many did you read? She asked. Enough. Gabriel closed his eyes briefly. Vivian looked at her daughter standing there between them with rain collecting in her dark hair. And for the first time in her life, she understood something terrible. The past was not over merely because the people who survived it had agreed to stop speaking. And somewhere inside the house behind them, her husband was still pouring champagne for guests who believed they were attending an engagement party.